In 2026, we are noticing that job descriptions are mattering more than titles. It's kind of been a shift already in 2025 if you were paying attention to the job market or just paying attention to job descriptions. What's happening now is, and this is going on in the freelance space, and that can be, like I said, like I mentioned before, 1099 or W-2, whichever suits you. I made a video about that as well, why W-2 is better in 2026. Or on the permanent side, you're noticing the same thing, that it's not really about titles anymore. And the reason is because a lot of companies are compressing the titles. So basically, a lot of companies are laying off across the board, and this is from tech through marketing, hospitals, whatever roles that people are in. And they're not paying, right? Because your job title normally matches with a certain scope of, a rate of pay, and hourly as well. So what happens is that after they have all of these layoffs, because remember, layoffs are foreseen usually and accounted for, especially around like holiday time. People will get their bonuses and then all of a sudden they're laid off, or right after they have a performance review, they'll figure a way to say it. Things are constantly changing. And so what happens is that when companies lay off all of those people, again, the work doesn't stop. So they're now bringing in freelancers to make up that workload. Or if the person is permanent, maybe they want to save money and bring in someone junior, pay them junior level, but give them more depth as far as what the job description entails. So it's basically a senior role, but they're trying to offer someone junior pay. And you'll see this, like I said, it's across freelance, it's also across permanent. And so I want to challenge you to not just look at what the job title is, because you can go for 3 or 4 different interviews with different levels of, like mid-manager, senior manager, entry level. And depending on the company's budget, they can all be paying in the same rate. So then this is where you have to look at, okay, what's the culture like? What's the company dynamic? How is this going to help me? How is this going to advance my career experience? So you want to look at that as well, and not just look at the title. Because when you read the job description, that's when you're getting the meat of the role. And job descriptions are usually, if it's coming through an agency, they might have like a skeleton role from the company. They might say, we need ABC, skeleton role, meaning they kind of take that role, or they take the title, and they may, go on LinkedIn and see what someone with that title, let's say like a marketing manager, they would see like what someone in that title is expected to do. But now you might see someone that's completely a marketing manager, meaning they're dealing more so with the campaigns. They're responsible for like the KPIs. How is the campaign doing? What we need to do to make it better once a campaign launches, what's holding it up, or what do we need to kind of tease to make it better, or make it hit those marks. And that's like with anything, right? The first time something launches or go out, that's when you get the most amount of people clicking on those emails or looking at it, right? It's like kind of like news, right? You're looking at what's current, what's daily, and how is that news and how is it relevant. So that's more popular than, say, a article that is old. It's a week old already, right? That's not as prominent, so that is expected to have more clicks on it. So again, that's part of the marketing manager's role, right? Like they're managing that portfolio depending on the line of business, depending on the company. Job descriptions also look different depending on what company you're in. So they'll, like I said, a recruiter will give a skeleton role, and a person will may go on LinkedIn and kind of see like, okay, what makes sense for this person to do. But now the reason why I said titles don't matter is because now you'll see them mixing in another role, like say a project manager role or a product manager or a scrum manager. So that role is now mixed in with, say, a marketing manager's role. So when you're reading that job description, it's like, okay, these are two different roles. These are two different expertises, and very few people have expertise across multi-channels, different channels, whether it's digital marketing versus brand or consumer, that kind of thing. So you'll notice that they're mixing up the titles. Yeah, they're calling the title one thing and the job description. You have to read the job description. That's the point, because the title doesn't matter. And because they're mixing up these two roles, it's really like, okay, this one role, like a product manager role, is going to pay more, right? Because you're dealing with the portfolios. Whereas a marketing manager's role, it may be different because the expertise is different, the needs are different. So when you're bringing two people in and you're giving one person those two roles, like I mentioned, very few people have that expertise, because usually if you are a product manager, you already are in that certain niche of like your portfolios, knowing them, learning them, making sure you know all of the teams properly, making sure that your communication is excellent, really managing that whole life cycle, whether it's remotely or in person. That's what your role really is. Whereas a marketing manager, they're more so like they're pinned into the analytics, they're pinned into the KPIs, they're pinned into how is this campaign performing. So that usually that marketing manager came up the pipeline from being maybe an associate manager, marketing coordinator, that kind of thing. And then, through raises and promotions based on the company, how fast it's moving, they are still in that certain niche. So now when you're bringing someone in freelance, like I said, or perm, you're mixing both worlds together, and very few people have that expertise. And this is where sometimes I tell you guys that freelance helps you to expand your portfolio, right? So because you handle different roles in different environments, you may have enough to know what it takes to succeed in that role. And that doesn't mean that you have become an expert in it. It just means that you have enough to kind of get it working. So I challenge you to not only look at if the role is senior, and this is happening even for directors. I saw a senior manager role recently, that had like, they wanted someone to have like 10 to 15 years of experience. And normally when you have 10 years of experience in a role, you are already at the level of a director, right? Because you know how to manage the teams. Now this is about leverage. You're in more leadership meetings. You're in leadership meetings already as a senior manager, but it's the fact of the years of experience that they want. So it's like, okay, how many people have been a senior manager for 15 years? Like that, or 10 years? That doesn't even make sense. Actually, that's kind of like a little red flaggish, right? Because another company would say, they would look at it like, what? Are you not ambitious enough? Do you not want the director title? Do you not want that next step? And there's nothing wrong with that. I, was promised, like I mentioned in my last video about Toxic Pharma, when they wanted to match my rate, since I was going over to the brand side, like I said, to get my life back, they came to me and they promised me these, titles, senior, and then, associate director. They promised me all of that. And I left all of that on the table, like I mentioned, because I was so fed up. It was so toxic, and, my hair, fibroids, all that stuff was going on. So I said no. So it's not uncommon for them to offer you those roles. So the point of the matter is, I want to challenge you to read the job descriptions properly. And then also, if they are mixing two different roles, like I said, a product manager and then a marketing manager, but then they're trying to pay you like $50 or $60, you know that each of those roles pay differently by themselves, right? Like each role is some serious money. So, and then mixing it together, and then they're also undervaluing you. And you have to be careful with that too. A lot of companies are doing, they'll, their leverage would be like, oh, it's remote. So since it's remote, they want to, charge you less money. And you have to look at that as well, because it's like, no, you're still doing this, you're still expected to do the same bandwidth of work, especially if they are mixing these two roles together. So now you're operating in two different levels of business, and you're expected to produce, and the rate doesn't make sense. So that's what prompted me to do this video, because I'm noticing it, and it's not only me. I am, like I told you before, I am in Fishbowl. I'm very heavily in Fishbowl, helping people, with their job searches and all that kind of stuff. And even we have one of the bowls is like a freelance bowl, and one of the creative directors was like, I have a project that came up. Clearly he has a contact, and they reached out to him. He said, look, I need a team. So he went in there and said, I need a team of a art director and a copy person, this and this and that. And people were immediately, replying, because again, it's work from home. People were immediately replying saying, oh, what's the title? What's the title? What's the rate? And he's like, titles don't matter. Like, look at the job description. Based on a job description, it's supposed to tell you the title. So that's the disconnect. When you read in that job description, like I just told you about that other role, where it's like they are asking for 10 to 15 years of experience, but they are calling it a senior PM, when 10 to 15 years of experience is definitely someone that's on a director path. But the job description also is leading more director, right? You're in those leadership meetings. You're responsible for that scope. You're responsible for mentoring other people, even though you mentor as well as a senior, right? You mentor, that's part of the role. You're mentoring, you're giving back, you're coaching, and making sure that they're good to go. Because that's part of performance reviews. Did you mentor this person? If there is a weakness, if they're on a PIP, if they're on a performance thing, how are you helping them overcome this? Some things that, wouldn't happen if you're a freelancer. If you're a freelancer, you're expected to come in, hit the ground running. But as a freelancer, you also want to make sure that you're leveraging properly, because again, titles don't matter. In 2026, titles don't matter. And that's the message. If you like this type of content, you want to learn more about different roles, different channels. My background is retail, e-commerce, and marketing. I'm putting together capsules, all that good stuff to kind of help you guys move along. I'm also putting together like a freelance strategy thing, which should be very helpful, because like I said, in 2026, the market is just so different and the budgets are crazy. And a lot of my thinking and confirmation of this market is validated with being in different, rooms, with hearing like, oh, it's not about the title no more. Like, what's the rate? Does the rate make sense for me if I'm doing 3 different roles? What's happening? Yeah. So again, follow along, like, subscribe to the channel, and look forward to more content. I'm looking forward to producing more content, and have a good one. Bye.